Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to another Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. As always, that is Otis Kirk. I am Jacob Morris. Otis, it is fall camp season today. A much-deserved off day for the Hogs, off
Yeah,
on Sunday. 8 practices in, the first closed-door scrimmage of the fall yesterday in Razorback Stadium. It's beginning to feel a little bit more real. 3 weeks from today, we'll be talking
yeah,
about Game 1 for the Hogs in the books. That's crazy to even say, but today we're going to talk about kind of new faces that are making a difference for the Hogs and
yeah,
have a potential to make a difference throughout the season. And
yeah,
I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. With the way this roster is constructed, there is a lot of new through the portal. There's a lot of new freshmen as well. In terms of Razorback fans getting to know this roster, you're going to have to get to know the new face as well. So let's just cut to it, Otis. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball and let's go transfers first. Who are some guys? I'll give you a hint, pretty much the entire wide receiver core and a couple other key positions as well. Who are a couple
pretty,
transfers that you've got your eye
pretty
on for this
much.
season?
I tell you, Mike Washington Jr.
Yeah,
Let's start with him. Sam
yeah,
started with him yesterday. Let's start with Mike Washington Jr. 6'2", 228, a running back from New Mexico State. Came in, really is taking charge of the running back room. He and Raylan Russell probably will see a lot of action. Well, not probably, they will see a lot of action there. But I mean, Rodney Hill's in the mix too. But Mike Washington's a first year player from Michigan State, New Mexico State. That's just big. Yet, I think what some people misunderstand him when I talk to people and I say, but he's not very fast. I'm not sure where that came from because the
mhm,
kid is very fast. Uh, in fact, he and Braylon Russell are both fast. I mean,
yeah,
they're big, but they're fast too. So I don't know where the but big but not fast is coming from. But Mike is fast, and he will be one. And then you hit on it, the wide receiver room, man. You got Jalen Brown and Andy Jean were the late additions. Both of them, Sam mentioned yesterday, are really impressing him. I think Raylan Sharp, Omega Blake, and Cam Shanks, they came in early. All three of them are in the mix. Courtney Crutchfield caught a touchdown pass yesterday. I'd like to see Courtney move up on the chart some. He's got the talent. But and then we know Ishmael Sissy would have played this year.
yeah.
Sissy, but obviously got hurt, so that's he's out. But yeah, I see him out at practice, but he's not doing anything. You got the cast on his wrist. But those wide receivers, you think of C.J. Brown, Monte Henderson, maybe one or two others from last year, and that's about it as far as other than the transfers. And then both tight ends, Rohan Jones from Michigan, Montana State. I don't know why it's so hard to say Montana for me. Rohan Rohan Jones from Montana State is one of the tight ends. He reminds me a little bit, built kind of like Luke Hasworth. And then Jaden Platt, he looks like an offensive lineman. Now, he's
Mhm.
6'5", 260, caught a big pass yesterday. Uh, both both those kids are going to be in there with Andreas Pasky at tight end. They're going to see a lot of action. Then we talk, when you go to the offensive line, Corey Robinson's made about a bigger impact as anybody over at that left tackle spot. And then Caden Kittler is at center. And I really, really like Robinson. I saw him
Yeah.
when he visited. And then we can't forget Shaq McCroy over at right tackle. He and Kobe have got the lake show going over there. Shaq and Kobe, they got the lake show going on the right side of the offensive line. But yeah, McCroy, boy, but he and Robinson are just big kids. Kittler's not so big, 6'3", 295 at center. I say not big at 295 pounds, but that's pretty good size. But no, Kittler at center, you don't have to weigh as much as you do at tackle. So he's got good size for the center spot. Arkansas beat a lot of schools to get him, including Florida State and others. He was from UCF, but I like him at center. I've seen better snaps than I saw last year with the center snapping to Talon. Seems like the snaps have been a little bit better this fall. Well, they were in the spring too, but this fall it seems like the snaps are better there. But those guys all expected to play. Broussard and Duberville, they're kind of backing up some people on the offensive line. Uh, I said that about Courtney, and here's the thing about Cam Shanks. He was first team All America
Yeah.
recently, and that's as a punt returner. So I think Arkansas is going to definitely upgrade to punt returner spot. Nothing against Isaiah. Last year I thought he did well, but I mean, when you get the first team All American, it's an upgrade over anybody. Trevor Jackson, the quarterback, he's been running third team with Grayson Wilson kind of alternating there at that third spot. But I don't expect the quarterback to see a lot of action unless Talon and KJ both got hurt. Then you'd be looking at Trevor and Grayson. But uh, but I do look the biggest impacts on offense from the portal. Uh, Jacob, I see Mike Washington. Man, I see Rohan Jones of Platt and then Corey Robinson, but also I don't know, on receiver. I mean, pick your poison there. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be Jalen Brown, Andy Jean, Raylan Sharp, Omega Blake, Cam Shake. Something tells me though, that Raylan Sharp and Omega Blake are going to have big seasons.
Hmm.
That's two guys that I think the others will play well. I asked Taylor yesterday. I said some fans are concerned about not having a go-to receiver like, last year Armstrong caught 78 passes. But to me, if you've got, let's say, 4 to 6 players catching 30, what's 25 to 45 passes, that defense can't target one person, and even Taylor agreed with that yesterday. So I think the wide receiver group's going to be better. They're going to be faster than they were last year. Now Isaac could really fly Tesla, but most part, some of those guys were more kind of possession receivers. But
Hmm.
I think they're in really good shape at wide receivers. It's just that they don't have a lot of SEC experience there now. Omega Blake played at South Carolina previously, and Crutchfield was at Missouri working out, and then uh, Andy Jean was at Florida before he went to Pitt. So I mean, it's not like they haven't played in the SEC. But when you play at Florida State, you play at Fresno State, Missouri State, and the big thing with Shanks is, I mean, with Sharp, I'm sorry, with Raylan Sharp, he knows the offense, Jacob.
Hmm.
He knows the offense play, having played at Missouri State with Bobby and Ronnie Fouch up there at Missouri State. So that's going to be big for him. I think that's helped him learn the offense quicker, or I mean, adjust quicker, not necessarily learn, but adjust quicker to Arkansas. And that's huge. Kim Shanks, the bad part there is, man, he's been out with, I believe Sam said it's a hamstring, and he's been out for quite a while. And you want to get him in there and give him some reps before the Alabama A&M game. You hope that hamstring straightens out because they really need him back there returning punts. If something happened and he couldn't return punts, look for Omega Blake to go back
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
That's probably the next man up. It'd be Omega Blake at the punt returner. But if Shanks is healthy and able to go, he will be back there returning punts. Uh, you want to jump to defense now with the portal, or
Yeah, we'll take a quick break first in terms
okay?
of
Yeah,
talking there. It's interesting. You mentioned Mike Washington right off the top there, and I think
yeah,
that's the one that maybe a lot of fans didn't see coming from the standpoint that I
yeah,
think a lot of people had just kind of penciled Braylon Russell into that number one role, and it's not
yeah.
that Braylon won't
Well,
play a big time role in this team, that he won't contribute, but it has been very clear through talking to the coaches, talking to the players, that Mike Washington came in and he grabbed that number one running back role in
yeah.
terms of he's done everything right in terms of leadership on the
Well,
field, all the above. He won the points competition that they had, where we've kind of gotten a little more light into that as fall camp has gone on, where, they would kind of pit guys in teams of 10 against each other. And Mike Washington would go up against guys and beat him every single time. He led the entire team in points.
led the
He's a
team.
guy that this team is looking to for a lot of production. He had a 50+ yard touchdown yesterday in the closed door scrimmage. He has that explosive ability. He scored. It was funny. We talked with Colby Smith this week as well, and he noted on the first play of live pads action, who scored 50+ yard touchdown?
Yeah,
Mike
Mike Washington.
Washington. He has a big play ability, and I think it is interesting from the standpoint that you mentioned. People kind of discounting his speed a little bit
Yeah.
and kind of wondering what type of role he'd play coming over from New
Well,
Mexico State. It's clear the Hogs have big plans with him.
yeah, I think one thing too, he shared duties. He didn't. He only
Hmm.
started 4 games at New
Exactly.
Mexico State last year. People got to understand the kid that he started ahead of him was transferred from OU was a stud,
Yeah.
and it's not like starting at running back. I mean, he got plenty of carries,
Yeah.
but he did start 4 games there. But I think some people looked at the fact he didn't start at New Mexico State. They thought he was just big and not fast. And I think people kind of got down on him. People tell me they need to get a running back to the portal, and I said, no, they've got one. So I think that's what kind of. I think there was some mistake. Well, obviously there was some people mistaken there. I think you're going to be when fans go to the stadium on August the 30th. They're going. I think they're going to be pleased with what they see from Mike. Mike Washington Jr. that day. And Braylon Russell too. I mean, I'm a big Braylon Russell fan.
Yeah.
Have always been one ever since I saw him. Uh, I think he was in the ninth grade at Lakeside. He was at the football camp up here, and he outran everybody here. You know, reminded me a little bit of McFadden doing that when he was that age. But yeah, I love Braylon Russell. And look, they're not going to be one running back there the whole
Mhm.
game anyway. They're going to share carries, and Braylon's going to get his share, and Rodney Hill will get some carries. So
Yeah.
that's a position you don't see one guy anymore. Those days are long gone. Back in the 3 yards in a cloud of dust, one guy carried 50
Mhm.
times. You don't do that in the SEC. He carries 50 times in the SEC every week. He wouldn't be playing very many weeks. I'm just
Yeah.
telling you, he wouldn't be going. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. There's multiple reasons for that, right? We've learned, you're more productive if
yeah,
you have, some more limited opportunities, whatever it might be. And then these
yeah,
guys, if you want an NFL career, right, you can't burn them out the way that you used to in terms of the college ranks. It's kind of funny. We smile, right? A window into fall camp is every team across the country, everywhere will tell you that they love the depth of every single position room everywhere. That's just the
yeah,
fact, right? You're not going to hear anything else about every position group. But to your point, running back is one that I think the Hogs
yeah.
feel good about, barring injury. I don't think they
Right.
want to maybe delve into some of the freshmen there, but those three guys, Colby Smith said, hey, you're going to see all three, and all three are going to play a big
Yeah.
time role. But we're going to flip over and talk defense, but first, a quick break and a message from our sponsors. Back here on the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report, that is Otis Kirk. I am Jacob Morris. Otis, we are going to flip over to the defensive side of the ball, talk transfer additions. And again, I just, spoiler alert, there are a lot of new faces, and a lot of new faces the
Yeah.
Hogs need to come through on the defensive side of the ball. But first, we forgot an offensive face. Give somebody some love before we flip to the
Oh,
defense.
uh, yeah. I want to mention AJ Green. He's a
Yeah.
walk on, but played here previously as a scholarship player. And he may not be in the top 3 right now, but you let one of those guys get hurt,
Yeah.
which injuries happen at running back. We know that. So injuries
Mhm.
happen, and he could be the next man up there. Like you said, I don't think they really want to play the freshman this year. So AJ Green could see some action there, and he's got speed. We know that. Right now, I think he's fourth on the depth chart, but that's a position that does have injuries.
Mhm.
And but I think there'll be a role for AJ at some point. Not necessarily, maybe not running back, but somewhere on the return or
Yeah.
special teams. I think they'll find some spots for him. Now we can talk defense.
Yeah, yeah. Let's flip over defense, right? That was an area where Sam told us during the spring, we got to address the secondary.
Mm.
Lots of different faces out. Defensive line additions as well for the Hogs. Arkansas is going to have to rely on transfer portal additions. It's all over the place, but let's start in the secondary where it was
Yeah.
5, 6 major additions for the Hogs this
Well,
offseason.
the kid I really liked there that we had on this show was Julian Neal,
Yeah,
man. I
big
saw
time.
Julian, what was that, Monday or Tuesday? We saw
Yeah.
him over at the U of A. It was good, great to see him. Uh, Came from Stanford. Never played at Stanford. He played at Fresno State with Raylan Sharp. He went to
Mhm.
Stanford. They fired their coach, so he left. And when he got a chance to come to Arkansas in the second portal opening, and well, he's 6'2", 200. And you know, when I first saw him that first day, I made a mistake. I wrote they were playing him at safety because he looks like a safety, but he told me they're going to play him at corner, and I see why now. But and I'll tell you another kid's big, Kanai Walker from OU.
Okay.
Is he's 6'2", 206. Kanai and Julian have that size that you want out there at cornerback, and they're in the mix along with some other kids that are here, including Keyshawn Davila
Mhm.
from the junior college ranks, and then Jaheim Singletary, and then the other kid that's been out there for a while, that's in the mix, But I just think the I think it's going to be hard for them to not start Julian Neal and Kanai Walker there. They've got the size. I really think Julian's pretty much a lock to start at one of those corners.
Mhm.
Uh, when you get in the back end of that secondary, you're talking Shakir Smalls from Maine, Caleb Wooden from Auburn, who I like a lot, Quintavious Skandrick from Eastern Michigan. And I don't mean to short Selman Bridges back there. He may be in the mix, but I look more at corner I'm talking about, but I look more for it to be Kanai Walker and Julian Neal. But now uh, he's Selman's in there, as
Mhm.
is Jaheim, Jordan Young's a kid that could play corner or in the back end from Cincinnati, and I think he's been playing both. I when I talked to him, I remember when he was on his visit, and I talked to him after his visit, Jacob. He told me, he said, I played every position in the secondary, and I don't care where I play. I don't care if I play corner, hog, safety. And I think they took him up on that. I look for him maybe to be the starter at the hog spot back there, but he's good. Didn't get to see him in spring. He was hurt, but he's come on this fall and looked good. And I think he's definitely in the mix for a starting spot. If not, he's certainly going to be in the rotation.
Mhm.
Scattered's running second team at the safety spot. Wooden's kind of mixing between first and second team
Yep.
reps, and they've tried him at the hog and the safety, but I know Caleb wants to play safety. He's a lot more comfortable there than he is the hog. So I hope they get that figured out. Even if they had to move somebody else over the hog, I hope they keep Caleb at safety. And he's competing there with Larry Worth and Miguel Mitchell, but I think Caleb is gonna, if he doesn't start, he's certainly gonna be in the mix too, and he's certainly gonna be in the rotation. But I like him. Linebacker kid is really coming on the last few days. Andrew Harris. We weren't even
Mhm.
hearing about him early on the camp. Sam had mentioned Trent Whalen being there with Wyatt Simmons stuff, but the last week or so, Andrew Harris from UCF has really come on. 6'2", 233 linebacker, got good size. Whalen's 6'3", 235 from Kent State. So those are both big linebackers, and I think they've got a chance to help. A kid that I liked when they committed him was Frank Malapala from down in Texas, a small school in Texas in Permian Basin. But I tell you what, 6'4", 275. What's a shame with Frank? He didn't get to be here about 3 years where he could have gotten a weight room and really got
Yeah.
bigger and strong. He's 6'4", 275, but he can flat play, and I think you'll see him at defensive end there. Uh, Philip Lee's in the mix to play some, but the kid that's really taken off this fall, we didn't hear a lot about last spring, was Justice Boone from Florida.
Mhm.
I didn't
Yeah.
hear them bragging on him that much in the spring, but boy, in the summer and in the preseason here, he's been on everything. He's starting and getting praised. And but I love David Oakey too, a defensive tackle, 6'2", 295. Madeline Christian, he got hurt last spring and missed the first couple of weeks, and that hurt him. But David Oakey, Sam said yesterday, they've got to have he and Paula come through for them. They've got to have him, and I think Oakey will. I think he'll push Danny Staley, once he gets more familiar with everything. Missing those 2 weeks in spring really hurt him. And then Ken Talley's another player. I don't know how much we'll see him, except on specialty. But Justice Boone is the guy that surprised. That's been my surprise this
Mhm.
preseason, Jacob. That's been my surprise. I saw him last spring, and I just wasn't hearing anything about him. And I kind of thought, well, and he didn't do a whole lot at Florida. And I'm thinking maybe they didn't miss. They may have missed on him, but no, they didn't miss. I guess they feel like they really hit on him, and he's in the mix. And it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Alabama, A&M, Arkansas State, Ole Miss. I'm anxious to see what Justice Boone does. We know Quincy Rhodes and Cam Ball are going to be solid. They're going to be rock solid. But it's going to be those other two spots. Can Danny Staley and Justice Boone take up the slack? We'll see. But they've got to have them, and they're capable of doing it. So it's going to be an interesting. I really like this portal class. I thought that was a very good class. Probably better than I thought it was, to be honest with you.
They feel positive about the portal class they brought in, but the negative side of that coin is these guys have a shorter time to gel, right? And I think we
Yeah,
saw some of that yesterday with Sam didn't mince words about the fact that the offense had its way specifically with big plays. I mean, it was
that's
3, 4, 5,
that,
6, 40+ yard touchdowns. And
yeah,
it's
that's
that's
concerning.
that's the area you worry about when you talk
Yeah.
about a portal class like that. These guys might be super talented. They just got to gel together. We're gonna take another quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up with some freshmen. We're looking to maybe make an impact this season as well. One more break, and the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report is back after this. Back on the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report, wrapping up shop. Otis, quickly before we go, this team brings in a talented portal class. Lots of new faces to help there, but there are a couple freshmen I know you have an
Yeah.
eye on that you say, hey, even as a true freshman, maybe this guy potentially on both sides of the ball could have an impact. Who do you have your eye on in that regard?
Well, I'm gonna start with Antonio Jordan,
Sure.
kid
Yeah.
that I've praised since I saw him in high school. 6'6", 230. I saw him drop a pass Friday, I guess it was, at the practice, but he doesn't do that very often. But Antonio is going to play. He's working with the third unit right now, but he will be one that plays. I'll tell you, there's something in the water,
Yeah.
more, and they send overseas. I'll tell you guys, I talked about Justice Boone being surprised. A guy's kind of been surprised for me on the offense is Cash Courtney, the center
Yep.
from Carthage. Sam's really high on him. And it's going to be, and so is Eric Mateus. You know, he had Cash committed to Baylor, and then he got him flipped to Arkansas from Carthage, Texas. I wasn't really expecting much from Cash this year, and he may not play. You know, if Kittler stays healthy, Cash may not play much, but they really like him at center, and he has a bright future. Uh, on the defense, I tell you, I don't know how many of those defensive linemen
Mhm.
will make a big impact this year, but they've got 5 of those kids that if they stay in the program, they're all going to be difference makers in the program. Kevin Otis, Reginald Vaughn, Trent Sellers, Keandre Johnson, and Reginald Vaughn. Are just guys that I love those guys. And like I said, because they've got older guys, they may not play that many. And then Tavion Wallace is a
Yeah.
freshman, probably won't play that much at linebacker because they're so deep. But JJ Shelton can play linebacker, hog position. We saw him make some interceptions in the spring. Looks good. Uh, I guess the guy, though, the freshman, even throwing Jordan in the mix, that'll make the biggest impact will be Scott Starsick,
Yeah, I
the
was gonna
kicker.
say. Yep.
Can't leave him out. I'll tell you, Scott. I mean, that's as important a position as there is on the field because they were inconsistent there last year,
Mhm.
and it cost them. It cost them the Oklahoma State game. Well, I mean, there was other things that cost them the Oklahoma State game. But if they make one of those field goals in regulation,
Yep.
they escape with a win. It shouldn't have ever been that close, but it was. But that could be big. And he was 5 out of 6 yesterday in field
Mhm.
goals. Missed a 50-yarder, but he hit 5 out of 6. And while we're talking to field goals, man, we've got to mention Cam Little getting a 70-yarder last night, Jacob. That's unreal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
But
that thing would have been good from more.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
he had
that
about
kid's got a
73. Yeah, he could hit that
yeah.
from
I
about
mean, what
73.
a kick! I know
Yeah.
I'm jumping to the pros, but man, you can't have a kid from Arkansas kick a 70-yard field goal and not mention it on here.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just huge. That was
Yeah.
huge.
And it's a pretty much it's a perfect segue from Starzik there, and it's a perfect way to
Yeah,
wrap this thing from the standpoint that we heard from Scott Fountain, we heard from Sam Pittman that who does Scott Starzik remind both of them of? Cam Little in terms of
yeah,
mentality, just the way that he's taking care of his business. That's a lot to put on a kid. So just let Scott Starzik maybe be Scott Starzik, but
yeah,
he seems to carry himself in a confident way. And again, five of
yeah.
six yesterday in the scrimmage. They're finding ways to put pressure on him, just kind of lugging the
Well,
field goal unit out, putting the ball down after touchdowns, all the above. And
that was
so far, so good in that regard. It's been
that.
good to see them have that position short up a little bit.
That's big because he wasn't that good last spring. Let's
Yeah,
be honest.
yeah,
He missed a lot of kicks in the scrim. I guess he was good when they practiced and we didn't get to see it, but when the scrimmages, he didn't look good at all. So it's huge that he came through yesterday in the scrimmage, and I'm looking forward to seeing him kick and hopefully be very consistent. You know, like Cam was as a freshman. He missed some, but get most
hmm
of them.
yeah, yeah. It'd be a big get for the Razorbacks. Highly recruited kid, top five kicker, pretty much everywhere
Oh
you
yeah.
look. Scott Starzik appearing to be in the lead for the place kicking duties. But that's all the time we have on this week's Arkansas football recruiting report. As always, that is Otis Kirk. I am Jacob Morris. We'll be back to talk to you next week.